Disclaimer: I may mispronounce some names within this video while I am recording this script. So if I pronounce any of the names wrong in this video, politely correct me in the comment section below. Enjoy the video! Hello everyone, HeartCloud Productions here, and I am back with a new video. Being teased at the end of my previous video, I'll be doing something different revolving around Bob the Builder. Instead of doing reviews this time, I'm going to be doing a ranking video. Now, you all are probably wondering, what part of Bob the Builder am I ranking? Well, I'm going to rank the individual English dubbed voices of the 7 main characters, from both the UK and US dubs. This is a video idea where I thought was the most out there concept to do, because talking about my opinions on just the voice acting alone from this show honestly interests me. Voice acting in general is a part of making a movie or TV show enjoyable, and how it could affect the characters' personalities and emotions. With proper direction and talent, it can make a certain piece of media enjoyable, even when the scripts they are given may not be the best. And since Bob the Builder has 2 English dubs for me to work with, I'm going to rank every individual voice from the start of Season 1 to Season 18 at the end of Ready Steady Build. I'm not counting the reboot because I'm just not interested in talking about it, so I'm sticking with just the 3 sagas of the original series. It makes this task a whole lot easier because I'm going to be talking about each of the 7 main characters one by one, while ranking all of their English dub voices. Now, before I start, I'm going to tell you all that I don't actually dislike all of the voices that were given for the 7 main characters throughout the original run. The worst the voices could go is just mediocre, forgettable, or basically not as good as the others. As I go over each of the voices, I'm warning you all that I am not an expert on how I would explain my opinions on the voices, because I don't usually go into detail on how the characters sound or how their dialogue was delivered. I'll try my best to explain my opinions on the voices as best I could, but if you could explain your opinions better than I could, feel free to comment down below. Anyways, I'll showcase my thoughts on each of the voices throughout the ranking, while providing a clip from the show to represent the character having that voice. For the record, I've seen both UK and US dubs of the 3 eras of the show in some way, so this shouldn't be too hard of a ranking to do. And of course, all these rankings are just my opinion. If you think a particular voice actor or actress should be higher or lower, just remember that I would like to see your ranking in the comment section below. With all that out of the way, let's begin. I had to start with the title character somehow. Bob is the one I would view as an expert builder, but is sometimes clumsy when being put into jobs that don't suit him, and sometimes being forgettable with his mobile phone apparently. But most importantly, he is notably a father figure to his machines in giving them praise for their accomplishments or giving out criticism if they do something wrong in a reasonable manner, and also calling out Spud for his troublemaking antics. Bob's range of voices are pretty solid for the most part, while having him sound like the age he is supposed to be in the show, like a man in his late 20s or early 30s. I might be wrong on that. But I said for the most part because half of the voices aren't that great, or they are just forgettable. Sadly, the worst Bob voice is Greg Proops from seasons 10 through 14 of Project Build It. I'm sorry, but I'll never get used to this voice coming out of Bob. This voice range Greg went with just doesn't work for Bob, and it gets quite annoying after a while.
I have an idea. Wendy's looking after the yard in Bobsville, so it's just me and you. And we could build a campfire and have a camping adventure together.
Whenever Bob speaks, it kind of makes his dialogue sound grating at times, and that is not what I want to hear from the main character. But the voice is not terrible though. It's not insufferable or Greg wasn't trying. He just exists to voice Bob for 2/3 of Project Build It. I personally think the choice to cast him to voice Bob just doesn't suit him if he was the replacement after the first 9 seasons of the show. Not terrible, just not a good replacement. Moving on from the most annoying voice to the forgettable but serviceable voice. Mark Silk, from the last 2 seasons of Project Build It to all the way to the end of Ready City Build. Honestly, if the previous voice for Bob couldn't stay around for the beginning of Project Build It, they should have casted Mark as Bob instead.
Now don't anyone panic. You need to be careful, Rolly. You're a big, heavy machine. We'll just have to build a new shelter and make it skidsy-proof.
The voice Mark gives out while voicing Bob is more tolerable to my ears, and it sounds more closer to the first voice actor who voiced him. Although it does sound generic at times, especially in the 2 seasons of Ready Steady Build, where the writing treats the characters like idiots. That is why he is sort of forgettable in my opinion. Still a better choice, but not by much. I would have been more accepting of Mark taking the role as Bob for the rest of the show if he was able to start at the beginning of Project Build It. He would have had a much better chance to stand out as a good replacement. He's forgettable, sure, but still a better choice than Greg in my opinion. Now we head into the good voices of Bob. Starting with William Duffress, who voiced Bob throughout the first 9 seasons of the show. When I think about a good voice for the main character that is not from the UK dub, it would be William's performance as Bob.
Don't worry, Dizzy. We'll be too busy to miss her.
What do you mean, Bob?
I've just had an idea. We're going to fix Wendy's garden up so it's as nice as her sister's.
I'll talk about the US dub's voice direction when I get to talk about the machines, but William does do Bob justice in my opinion. Bob sounds like his age, and William puts in the effort to make his dialogue sound convincing and enjoyable to watch. William puts in a good amount of emotion into Bob's dialogue, and the line delivery is enjoyable to the ears. My only problem with William's performance as Bob is that he could sound a little too high-pitched when he delivers on the dialogue. I do like how William's performance makes Bob sound like his age, but the pitch makes him sound a little bit younger than I would imagine for him to sound. It's not a huge hindrance that it is not distracting, but I wish William would pitch his voice down a little bit so as to not make Bob sound like a teenager, where his reboot counterpart portrayed him as such. Aside from that, I enjoy William's performance as Bob. William's impression is iconic and enjoyable whenever I get to watch the US dub from time to time. Going from iconic to the one every Bob the Builder fan knows all too well is Neil Morrissey from the UK dub. Neil is just Bob in my opinion. Despite not changing his voice range as much, he makes Bob sound like his age while also not making him sound too old or too young.
Not bad! Pretty musical. Not as good as my trumpet, though.
The line delivery is simple but great to listen to. Even listening to radio podcast videos where Neil is just using his normal voice, it was surprising to me how his Bob voice is not too different from how he normally sounds. Bob is not my favorite character Neil Morrissey voices, but there's nothing about his performance as Bob that I need to criticize about. He is the Bob the Builder, and no other voice actor can top him in my opinion. Luckily, Wendy is not one to go wrong when ranking her voices because she only has 2, apparently. Wendy is the kind of person who is smart and a fast learner. She is the one who is Bob's building partner whenever there are 2 jobs going at the same time, or when the job is too big for Bob to do alone. Also, she is like the mother figure towards the machines as well. When discussing Wendy's voices in both English dubs, it is interesting how she had one voice actress all throughout the original run with no replacements in future seasons. That makes me wonder why the other actresses and actors didn't stick around throughout the entire series for Bob and the Machines throughout the US dub. I guess I'll never know. Anyways, the voices Wendy had throughout the series are very solid. What I mean is that I like both of the voices Wendy had throughout the show, with no forgettable replacements in between. But which actress is my favorite? Well, coming up in a close second place is Laura Lee King from the US dub.
Calm down, Dizzy. I'll phone Bob. He'll know what to do. No, Bob's sick. We've got to figure this out.
What I like about Laura Lee's performance is that she makes Wendy sound like the team mom. I wasn't too keen on Laura Lee's performance at first, but it grew on me over time, as I sometimes watch the US dub of the show. I like how Laura Lee makes Wendy sound kind and nurturing without having to go too crazy on making her voice distinct from how she normally sounds. Although it has one little setback. The voice sounds a little too gentle for my liking. I like the kind, simple nature Laura Lee showcases within Wendy, but sometimes she lacks the energy and enthusiasm as she delivers on the dialogue. What I mean is that Laura Lee might make Wendy sound bored or her tone in the dialogue doesn't fit a certain scene. If Laura Lee was consistent in delivering the emotion within the characters she voices, then she would have been my favorite voice for Wendy. I like why Laura Lee is going for Wendy by making her the team mom of the group, but the voice direction could make her sound bland at times. I hold Laura Lee King in regard for her performance as Wendy for being the only one to stick around until the end of the original run of the US dub of the series. But the one who takes the spot as my favorite Wendy voice is Kate Harbour from the UK dub. She is basically Laura Lee's performance from the US dub, but has the energy and emotion put into the performance as Wendy.
Oh, poor Pilchard. Don't you like the smell of paint? Oh, well, don't you worry. I've almost finished, and it'll soon dry.
Kate's performance just really hits me home on how she puts in the effort to sound very enthusiastic as Wendy. She is the team mom and Bob's building partner, but Kate embraces her talent to make Wendy very enjoyable to watch. The pitch is just right as Wendy is around Bob's age and the line delivery is consistent, while showcasing the right amount of emotion. Showing joy whenever the machines accomplish things or seriousness when things go wrong. Apparently, Kate can also make Wendy sound like a savage.
But
Oh, sorry, Wendy. I didn't mean to mess up your line. I was just showing Dizzy some football tricks.
well, now you can fetch a bucket and mop and show Dizzy your cleaning up tricks.
Oh my god, I always died laughing when that scene. I don't know why though, maybe it's because of Kate's line delivery being so blunt that she wasn't going to let Spud get off scot-free. Kate Harbour's performance as Wendy just wins me over because she portrays the character with care and is very memorable. Even though I do have a soft spot for Laura Lee King's performance for the US dub, Kate's performance will always be Wendy in my opinion. When discussing the main 5 machines, I have the most fun talking about them. First up is the reliable yellow digger, Scoop. Ever since the release of my Snowed Under review, I really have grown an appreciation towards the yellow digger, so this'll be fun. Scoop is always known to be Bob's first ever machine, and how he became the team leader of the Can-Do crew. He takes his job seriously as a digger, and all he wants to do is make his owner, Bob, proud. Scoop is not perfect though, and that is what makes him a relatable team leader in my opinion. The voices Scoop had over the years are mostly great with how they portrayed his character as young, but does take his jobs very seriously when needed. My least favorite and the most forgettable out of the three voices is David Mencken from season 17 through 18 of Ready Steady Build. Just like the mere existence of Ready Steady Build being a mediocre and forgettable third incarnation of the series, Scoop's replacement actor doesn't fare much better. Now, David didn't do a bad job voicing Scoop, it's just not good enough to be memorable.
Oh, look at those clouds, David! You must paint them, they're simply stunning!
But, Scoot, we really should get to the supplier's yard. Look at the sky.
You're right! What a pretty color! We have to paint it, David!
David's performance as Scoop is nothing special, and it doesn't hold a candle to the other actor who voiced the Yellow Digger previously. I do see that there was some effort put into the performance with the line delivery, and doing a decent job at portraying Scoop's personality, despite the mediocre writing quality. It's just the forgettable nature of Ready Steady Build just makes David's performance as the Yellow Digger not that special. Just like Mark Silk as Bob, the voice is serviceable but very forgettable. Whenever I think about the early US dub cast, I always think the choices are questionable at first, but they start to grow on me over time, and being my second favorite Scoop voice, that spot goes to Alan Marriott, who voiced the Yellow Digger from seasons 1 through 16, from the beginning of the series to the end of the Project Build It saga. Now, before I voice my opinion on the voice, let me briefly explain my thoughts on the US dub's voice direction. It'll give out context as to why I think the US dub is not a bad English dub, and why I enjoy it quite a bit. From what I could understand is that the US dub really wanted to push the show's demographic even further by making the machines sound a lot younger than they are supposed to be. From the UK dub, I always interpreted that the voices of the machines always make them sound distinct from one another in terms of age. Like Dizzy is clearly the youngest out of the five and Rolly sounds like the oldest of the group. When fully watching the US dub, I do find it questionable how the machines sound so much younger than they were in the UK dub. But that is where I found out that 4 of the 5 machines were all being voiced by actresses. So it kind of threw me off after a while, despite seeing one episode through the US dub during my childhood. Now, I personally don't mind the casting choices within the early US dub of the show, but only if the actors and actresses portray the characters they are voicing correctly. So with that rambling out the way, let's see how Alan's performance as Scoop holds up throughout the 2 stop-motion sagas of the show. When thinking about Scoop's voice throughout the stop-motion seasons of the US dub, I consider Alan's performance to be very memorable. His performance as the Yellow Digger is simple, but gets the job done.
Well, it is my break.
Alan does a good job at handling Scoop's moments of showcasing his emotions, and his line delivery was pretty good as well. Alan's voice range for Scoop is easy and nice on the ears, and the pitch isn't a big hindrance to the point of being annoying. His performance, in my opinion, is simply iconic for how he does a good job at portraying Scoop's character and personality to a T. This is an example of how the weird casting choices in the US dub can still be pretty enjoyable whenever they portray their characters the right way. Now, Alan was a good choice for Scoop in the US dub, but he doesn't live up to Rob Rackstraw's performance from the UK dub. It's not even a contest. Rob's performance as Scoop just reigns supreme, and it gets me so much life into my heart whenever I watch the UK dub of the show.
Yes, I mean, you're a brilliant teacher, and you've taught me everything I know, and can I fix it? Yes, I can!
Everything about Rob's performance as Scoop is just perfect. He really pulls off how Scoop acts as the team leader of the Can-Do crew, while also displaying his personality the best way possible. Rob is at his absolute best when he portrays Scoop's emotions all throughout the series because he makes his voice impressions stick within certain scenes, especially how Rob makes Scoop sound so choked up. while crying out of guilt and snowed under.
You're my friend, aren't you, Pilchard? And I haven't got many friends at the moment. I should never have tried to do everything by myself. Dizzy was right. We're all good at different things. That's why we make a good team. Except we're not a team anymore, and that's my fault. I've been horrible to them. I need to put things right. The only way I can get this job done is with their help. I just hope it isn't too late.
It doesn't matter how many times I watch the movie, I always get emotional within that scene. It goes to show how a character who is not perfect like Scoop just really grabs my attention while also making him relatable. And I thank Rob Rackstraw for making me appreciate Scoop so much more than before. Considering how the Red Digger Dumper is my least favorite Can-Do crew member out of the main 5, I still love the crap out of Muck. I always view Muck as a lovable idiot and kind of a jokester, who is friendly and hardworking, but loves to get mucky whenever mud gets involved, and has an interesting phobia of the dark, apparently. Muck is an interesting character to rank the voices because the Red Digger Dumper is known to be different genders across both the UK and US dubs. I find it weird how Muck was changed into a female character in the US dub, despite the show not having any problems with only having 2 female lead characters in the UK dub. But as I watch the US dub of the show, I honestly don't mind Muck being portrayed as a female, and that is how I made the Red Digger Dumper gender neutral when I made my humanoid version of himself. So I'll be referring to Muck as a he and a she when I rank each of the voices. I'm not sure why this is a common trend within this video, but my least favorite Muck voice is Sophie Aldred from Ready City Build. Sophie's performance as Muck unfortunately falls into the forgettable rating, but I do understand the intent behind the voice. I guess Sophie's voice direction was to make Muck sound close to like a male, such as sounding like a tomboy. I may be wrong, but that's the vibe while listening to Sophie's voice of Muck throughout Ready Steady Build.
Especially those doors. I can't wait to drive out through mine. I wasn't the first to the yard, but maybe I can be first out of my new door. Everyone will be really surprised.
I honestly kind of like this iteration of Muck, sounding less feminine and more of a tomboy in my opinion. Because I'll admit, the first actress did make Muck sound a little too feminine in my opinion. Sophie does a decent job of portraying Muck's line delivery and emotionality, despite having to work with mediocre scripts. Sophie also puts in effort to make Muck sound like her personality and having the energy in her performance. All this is good and all, it does fall into the trap of not being very memorable. With the scripts that were given during the run of Ready Steady Build, it doesn't give the VAs much freedom to show their fullest potential. Sophie Aldred is arguably one of the better VAs within later seasons in my opinion, because I know that she does have potential to be a great choice for Muck. It's just the scripts that were given just doesn't let her showcase her full potential. Sophie's performance is alright, despite the missed potential. Despite the US dub making the weird choice of turning Muck into a female, the actress does do her justice for the most part. And my second favorite is Lachelle Carl, who voiced Muck from season 1 to all the way to the end of the Project Build It saga. Lachelle's performance as Muck is what I would describe her to be adorably iconic, while also capturing her character and personality very well.
It's just the wind. That's what it is. I'll sing myself a little song, and then I won't hear the noises. Yeah. Not scared. Definitely not scared.
The voice Lachelle showcases within Muck is adorable because the way she speaks just makes my heart melt on how the Red Digger Dumper could sound and act so wholesome. Lachelle does a good job on Muck's line delivery by putting in the effort and energy to sound good and portraying her emotions with sincerity, especially during the moments where she gets stuck and scared in the dark. My only nitpick for Lashelle's performance is that she makes Muck sound a little too feminine. It's not to the point of becoming annoying, but Muck's personality is something that might not mix well with the intended voice that Lashelle presented throughout the 16 seasons of the stop-motion era of the show. That is why I gave Sophie Aldred more credit for how her voice can fit within Muck's intended personality. But aside from that, Lashelle Carl still holds the place to be my favorite actress as Muck in the US dub. Some actors never change their placements within this video, because Rob Rackstraw continues to take the top spot as my favorite Muck voice. Rob's performance as Muck always gives me the vibe of how he is basically James the Red Engine's polar opposite, and it works so well.
Phew! That was lucky. Now I can stay mucky!
The way Rob showcased his voice range for Muck is simply endearing because the high-pitched voice is not to the point of being obnoxious, but is very enjoyable to the ears. Rob also succeeds with Muck's line delivery and emotions very effectively, because he makes the Digger Dumper sound like he is going through those emotions. Like when Muck makes mistakes or whenever he showcases fears of the dark. Scoop will always be my favorite character performed by Rob Rackstraw, but his performance as Muck will always win me over, despite me enjoying the Digger Dumper as two different genders across the two English dubs. Halfway through the video, we can make it. Up next is the young and lovable cement mixer, Dizzy. The orange cement mixer always sticks out to me on how she is the only female machine out of the main 5 Can-Do crew members, while also being the youngest out of the bunch. Dizzy is bubbly, full of energy, is Muck's best friend, loves to listen to music through her headphones, play with her soccer or football, and is just basically adorable all around. Dizzy's range of voices is more straightforward compared to the previous characters we discussed throughout the video so far. If the actress knows how to make Dizzy sound and act young through the voice, then I would consider them good enough choices for her. Unfortunately, not all of the actresses Dizzy has followed my personal criteria, and my least favorite goes to Emma Tate, who voiced Dizzy from the last 2 seasons of Project Build It and throughout Ready City Build. I'm sorry, but Emma's performance as Dizzy just really feels like she isn't even trying to replicate her personality through the voice.
Okay, I'm gonna think up something really, really funny, Scratch. But until I do, keep working.
I just don't feel the energy or enthusiasm within Emma's performance through Dizzy, and that is what drags her down in my opinion. The voice is cute, I'm not going to lie, but it needs to be more than just sounding adorable. Emma also doesn't capture Dizzy's personality through the voice correctly, and it unfortunately makes the orange cement mixer sound kind of boring and dull. I wanted to like Emma Tate's performance as Dizzy, but I just can't overlook how she wasn't even trying to sound convincing that she is Dizzy during the last few seasons. I mean, Emma has done some great work as other characters, most notably Benny. If she could do some great work as Benny, then why not can she do the same for Dizzy? Personally, Emma's performance as Dizzy is not terrible, but she is far from being my first choice for providing my favorite Dizzy voice. Surprisingly, the next 2 actresses within the ranking come really close to each other in terms of being my favorites for Dizzy. And the first to come in second place is Maria Darling, who voiced Dizzy from Season 1 to Season 14 of Project Build It. Her performance as Dizzy is really solid, and she captures the character through the voice very well.
Look at that one! Oh, Muck! I've got a great idea. Why don't we surprise Bob and put the statues up for him?
Maria captures the bubbly and energetic personality Dizzy is known to have in the series. And, of course, the voice is friggin' adorable as heck, especially within Dizzy's giggles. Maria also does a good job at Dizzy's line delivery and portraying the right amount of emotion into her voice. What makes the orange cement mixer so enjoyable is that she is the little girl of the Can-Do crew and Maria puts in the effort to make her voice sound like the little girl she is portraying within Dizzy. Overall, Maria Darling did a wonderful job voicing Dizzy throughout a good chunk of the series until Emma Tate took over. Maria was so close to being my favorite voice actress for Dizzy, but the one actress that just took the #1 spot by a slight margin is Kate Harbour from the UK dub. Both Maria and Kate really became neck and neck with each other in terms of being my favorite voices for Dizzy. But Kate won by a hair by just being a slight bit more memorable than Maria.
Oh, can I, Bob? Can I? Oh, that's brilliant! Don't worry, Mummy Bird. I'm going to look after you and your egg, because I'm your egg's auntie.
Kate's performance really hits the same marks as Maria did in terms of portraying Dizzy's character to a T. But I honestly prefer Kate's voice of Dizzy just a little bit more in terms of how she makes the orange cement mixer sound in the show. I just think Kate's performance just really hits Dizzy's character and personality more strongly, because I can imagine Kate is having a fun time while voicing the orange cement mixer. The voice Kate settled with is exactly how I would portray Dizzy through age. Like, she sounds like an early preteen in my opinion. Kate also does a great job in delivering Dizzy's dialogue very effectively, and she portrays her emotions in a genuine manner. The one time where Kate made Dizzy sound so impatient and angry in one episode honestly gets me every time.
Now do you want any cement, Bob?
Not yet, Dizzy. I'll let you know when I do. Okay, Dizzy. Get mixing.
Yippee! Hey!
The way Kate delivered that scream is just so hilarious. That is why Kate Harbour just wins my heart for my favorite Dizzy voice, just the slightest bit more. But I still hold Maria's performance in high regard as a close second in my opinion. So yeah, 2 flawless voice actresses did my girl Dizzy justice, and I greatly appreciate it. I promised you all that I am trying to sound unbiased when ranking each of the voices from the 7 main characters. But with Rolly, he was the hardest to not be totally biased on ranking his set of voices. Anyways, Rolly is the character that I just have a deep fascination towards, even back when I was a brain-dead toddler who barely watched this show. Rolly is a green road roller who has a lot of enthusiasm and likes to be loud about how he is the one to rock and roll things flat. He is a music lover who would make up songs as he works and to put anyone in a good mood. He is a big softie whenever he befriends animals, even ones in the wild. And now my heart gets filled with so much life whenever I see him and Scoop together as roommates throughout the series. When discussing the voices Rolly had throughout the years, his lineup is very solid and I don't dislike any of them. Coming up at last place is Lauralee King, who voiced Rolly from seasons 15 through 18. I always have this interesting thought while listening to Lauralee's performance as Rolly, but that doesn't make her any better compared to her stronger performance as Wendy. But I do see an attempt.
No more catchy raps. I'll just tell them what they need to know. Listen to me! Get out of the water!
What's Rolly saying?
Get out of the water!
Oh, paddle for the beach, everyone!
I always have this thought within my mind that after the previous actress left the show after season 14, Lauralee tries to replicate the same voice with her own range, instead of finding another VA for Rolly. When I boil this thought process together when listening to Lauralee's performance, I always imagine Rolly kinda went through the stage of puberty after season 14. I know it might sound like a weird thought process for me to go into detail about, but I thought it was an interesting transition for Rolly to actually sound a little bit older than before. I do like the kind of voice direction Lauralee decided to go with while delivering the dialogue within Rolly's character, trying to make him sound older after going through the puberty phase, to which it meant how Lauralee wanted to portray her voice direction. But I only like the idea and concept, because I'm mixed on the execution. I just personally don't find Loreley's performance as Rolly to be as enjoyable because she lacks the energy and loud enthusiasm the Row-Roller is known for being in the series. The way she delivers Rolly's dialogue just makes him sound dull and not really being enthusiastic. Just like Emma Tate's performance as Dizzy, Loreley just doesn't seem to put in as much effort into her Rolly voice, while also not capturing his personality and emotions that well. I appreciate the idea of making Rolly sound like he went through puberty during the process of changing VAs after season 14, but it's pretty disappointing how Loreley just doesn't capture the Row-Roller's loud rock and roll enthusiasm through her performance. Overall, Loreley King's performance as Rolly is just meh in my opinion. I like the idea and concept, but the execution is kind of an oof. The one who did capture Rolly's personality through the US dub is Maria Darling, who voiced the Row-Roller from seasons 1 through 14 of the series.
Hello, Tortoise. I'm sorry if I scared you. Aw, you're a little like me, aren't you? Slow, but you get there in the end.
Despite picking an actress to portray Rolly being a very questionable choice, Maria does the Row-Roller justice, while also sounding like a male as best as she could. Maria captures the loud and enthusiastic personality Rolly is known for, and her pitch is different enough to not be similar to her Dizzy voice. Her line delivery is good, and she did a good job on delivering Rolly's emotionality through the voice. And I know I haven't brought up this criteria throughout the video yet, but I think it's appropriate to mention the category of singing through Rolly, since music is an integral part of his character. Maria does a pretty good job whenever Rolly sings little songs in the episodes and during actual musical numbers, especially in the live show. Although it's nothing spectacular in my opinion. Overall, Maria Darling's performance as Rolly really captures how weird casting choices can work with the proper amount of effort put into it. Now, as much as I give Maria's performance a good amount of praise, she doesn't come close to how much I love Neil Morrissey's performance as Rolly throughout the UK dub. Just like Rob Rackstraw's performance as Scoop, Neil's voice for Rolly reigns supreme in every shape or form.
Bob, Wendy, stand back!
What are you going to do?
I am going to help my friend Bird rock and roll!
Well done, Rolly!
Everything about Neil Morrissey's performance as Rolly just fills my heart with life, and here's why. The kind of voice Neil went with to portray Rolly really makes him sound completely different from what he normally sounds when he voices Bob and other characters. I had no idea that this voice really came out of Neil Morrissey at first, but then seeing that this completely unrecognizable voice range really did come from Neil, and that is why I love it so much. When a VA distincts their voice to sound completely different, it's always a positive sign that they are really talented, and Neil's performance as Rolly is one of them. I adore the Eastern Cockney accent Neil went with for Rolly. It is very creative to hear the Row-Roller sound like the oldest of the group, but acts young and hard through his loud rock and roll enthusiasm. The line delivery and emotionality for Rolly is on point from Neil's performance, and it never gets annoying to be honest. Heck, even Neil's great performance as Rolly can make something out of Ready Steady Build be more tolerable to watch. The singing is everything. Like, Neil just has so much talent to let his Eastern Cockney accent sound so wonderfully whenever he sings as Rolly. I'm not joking, just listen.
Special plant that loves flat places. Oh, a flat bit here, a flat bit there, so these plants can get some air. Lovely plants that like it flat. What could be nicer than that?
And even through the little songs within episodes, they sound very charming to listen to, and it adds to how much I love Neil Morrissey's performance as Rolly. All in all, Rolly is my favorite character Neil Morrissey portrayed throughout the series. His performance as Rolly is so great that he could take the worst incarnation of the series and actually make the Row-Roller watchable in my opinion. One way to conclude this entry is, God bless you, Neil Morrissey. Going from my personal favorite character to the favorite that is beloved by fans of the series. Lofty is the character that any fan of the show would be their favorite, and he is up there as my close second favorite. What makes Lofty so beloved in the first place is that he is the most relatable character in the show. Lofty is a shy but kind-hearted blue crane who tries his best within building jobs whenever it involves lifting things up or carrying things that could be heavy. But he is very timid and gets scared from time to time, such as his fears of heights, mice, and sometimes Spud the Scarecrow. When I talk about Lofty's range of voices throughout the years, I always think the character had some pretty solid choices throughout the 2 English dubs. But not all of them aren't as great as I hoped they would be. In my opinion, Lofty has my least favorite list of voices to rank. Like, all of them have some sort of flaw in them. I don't dislike any of them at all, but I'm saying that even the best ones aren't perfect compared to the others. Poor guy. Starting off with my least favorite voice is Emma Tate, who voiced Lofty throughout the Project Build It saga. Jeez. Emma isn't looking so good when voicing some of the main characters within my ranking, isn't she? My main problem with Emma's performance is that she makes Lofty sound way too young, making him sound like a little kid.
Oh, Giddy, Bob needs somewhere to sleep. Farmer Pickles has Scarecrow Cottage, Wendy has her trailer, and we have our shelter. Oh, Giddy, I've got an idea.
If you like Emma's performance as Lofty, then that's fine. You like when you like. But my problem is that the voice Emma provided for Lofty just doesn't work for the character when he sounds like a little kid. Dizzy is supposed to be the youngest of the group, not Lofty. The pitch is too high, the dialogue can sound grating at times, the voice barely sounds like a male at all, and it barely captures the timid but kind-hearted personality Lofty is known for. Even portraying Lofty's emotional moments is not that effective and it falls flat. The voice is cute, but it really doesn't help save Emma's performance from being very lackluster and from not being a good choice for the Blue Crane. I don't hate her performance as Lofty, like it isn't insufferable to the ears, but man, she wasn't a good choice to be casted as him. It's honestly sad how Emma's best voice work is from side characters of the show, but is very lackluster as some of the main characters. A common complaint within Lofty's lineup of voices throughout the US dub of the show is that the actresses make him sound feminine when he is a male. So, in that case, coming in third place is Lizzie Wordsworth, who voiced Lofty during the entirety of Ready Steady Build. This is the closest of Lofty sounding like a male in the US dub, and I wish this was the choice they went with starting at Project Build It.
I know, but my tires got wet in the ocean. Now I'm gonna fall apart like the pier did.
Just like Sophie Aldred as Muck, I see so much potential within Lizzie's performance as Lofty. She made Lofty sound like a male as he is supposed to be. The pitch isn't half bad, and despite working with mediocre scripts, she does put in the effort to capture Lofty's character and personality correctly. Although my only real criticism with Lizzie's performance is that she makes Lofty sound a little too whiny sometimes. I understand that she was trying to portray Lofty's personality through her voice, but sometimes the screams can be a little too whiny in my opinion. Not as grating as Emma Tate's performance, but it's still a mild distraction since I know that Lizzie was trying to make her voice sound like Lofty. And of course, Ready Steady Build doesn't do her favors to reach her full potential. If she were to be given much better scripts, then I bet Lizzie Wordsworth would have shined more as Lofty if she were the replacement from the previous VA. All in all, Lizzie's performance as Lofty is a much better replacement actress, but the nature of Ready Steady Build doesn't do her justice to be memorable. To be honest, the actress that voiced Lofty since the beginning doesn't really get talked about that much, and I think she is pretty underrated. As my second favorite, the actress I am talking about is Sonia Leet, who voiced Lofty from Season 1 to Season 9 of the original series. I don't know why, but I personally think Sonya's performance really does capture who Lofty is in the best way possible.
Hi, Bob. I seem to have picked up a few things along the way.
The voice Sonya uses to capture Lofty's personality to a T is what I appreciate about her performance. The shy nature her voice provided really fits within Lofty's character. I like the awkward but soft tone Sonya went with while delivering on Lofty's dialogue, making Lofty sound kind of awkward while also sticking to his true character. Just fits pretty well in my opinion. Sonya also delivers on Lofty's emotionality, and the screams aren't as obnoxious whenever the blue crane gets scared. I never understood the complaint on how Sonya's performance as Lofty makes him sound feminine. I mean, the way I watch a certain US dubbed episode that involves Lofty, I don't usually hear Sonya sound feminine most of the time. Maybe a couple of instances, sure, but it's not constantly where it becomes distracting. Honestly, Sonya's performance as Lofty really stands out with how she captures the character very well through the voice, while also making him sound like a male. My only problem with Sonya's performance is how she makes Lofty sound too shy and more quiet at times. I know this is a positive trait that I pointed out earlier, but at the same time, it just makes Lofty sound like Fluttershy from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Lofty is shy and timid, but he isn't that shy to the point of sounding quiet. Not a major issue, but I thought it was a flaw worth mentioning. I think Sonya Lee did a great job as Lofty throughout the original 9-season run of the show, despite being underappreciated in my opinion. When ranking Lofty's list of voices, another instance of two VAs coming really close to each other in terms of being my favorites. But one took the top spot by a hair, and that is Neil Morrissey from the UK dub. It was a close call, but I enjoyed Neil's performance just the slightest bit more.
Why don't you use the colours of the things you cook, Mr. Sabatini?
What do you mean, Lofty?
Yellow and green, like the peppers.
Neil's performance as Lofty really captures what the character is all about while also being the most memorable. He makes Lofty sound shy through the high-pitched voice he went with, but he also does a great job sounding enthusiastic whenever the blue crane is happy. In terms of emotionality, Neil does a great job in that category by delivering Lofty's fearful moments very well, making his giggles so adorable that my heart could melt, and making his tone so heartbreaking whenever he is upset. Basically what I said in my Lofty to the Rescue review, Lofty just knew how to capture the hearts of the fans of this show through his unforgettable emotions. No wonder Lofty is by far the fan favorite character out of the main 5 machines. It's because Neil Morrissey captured the character through his voice the de facto way to the point he is the perfect choice for the blue crane. Also, Neil makes Lofty sing like an angel.
Comet, comet in the sky, you are very, very high. You are shiny, you are bright, up there with the stars at night. Comet, comet in the sky, you are very, very high.
Ah! That was so cute! Oh my god! Unfortunately, despite Neil Morrissey portraying my favorite Lofty voice, I had stumbled upon a con within his performance. Whenever Lofty screams in fear, it can get a little grating at times. This doesn't occur that often, but whenever Neil takes the screaming a little too far, it does get annoying. This was also a common complaint some fans had, and I kinda had to agree with how Lofty can sound degrading at times whenever he screams in fear. But it's not a huge deal because this issue doesn't occur that much during my viewing experience. Overall, Neil Morrissey's performance as Lofty does my Blue Boy justice, and I don't care if he isn't flawless unlike the other characters that were ranked previously, because he's perfect enough in my opinion. Holy God, we made it to the end of the video. Making this script wasn't easy for me to put together, to be honest. It's no surprise to me that the UK dub reigns supreme in terms of providing flawless acting from only 3 voice actors with incredible voice ranges. Now, this video isn't to shame the US dub for not being nearly as good as the UK dub, but I made this video to showcase some appreciation towards most of the VAs that do a very solid job on portraying the characters they are voice acting. There are some stinkers in between, but the ones I enjoyed outweighed the ones that I either don't care for, or just being forgettably mediocre, or how some just couldn't show their fullest potential on what they could do for the characters. If I were to rank all the voices from worst to best as one big list, then here it is. Since this was a long video, I decided to not go too crazy on the editing since school is really making me so busy. So I hope you all don't mind this style of editing for this video. Don't worry, for my Bob the Builder review videos, I'll return to the normal editing style I use for those kinds of videos. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and like I said at the beginning, all these voices are just my opinion, and it shouldn't harm yours if yours is different and doesn't match mine, since this was a topic that I wanted to do a video on for a while now. Press the like button and comment down below on what are your opinions on the voices of the 7 main characters. Next time, I'll be reviewing... Tune in next time for my review of Scoop's Big Job. God, please have mercy on my soul.